Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 11th, and right now we are looking at the Portland Doppler radar. You got the reflectivity here on the left, and we've got velocity here on the right. The velocity is the wind direction. If you see red on your Doppler radar, it means it is moving away from your Doppler radar site. The green means it is moving towards. So a little Doppler 101 for you, but you can see that precipitation just continues as we go on in through this morning here. There's some heavier embedded showers in there as well. Cannot rule out a lightning strike or two as we go through the late morning, early afternoon hours, especially across western Oregon. Let's just dive right into things here with the infrared satellite imagery. You can see some of the lightning strikes if you look close off the Washington and Oregon coastline. Check it out. You can see a few lightning strikes there across the coastal range, and then one more there across some of the Oregon coastal areas there also. But you can see the low pressure right there over the top of the Olympic Mountains here of Washington and continuing to bring cold air aloft into the region here. Precipitation will be continuing on in through the day today. Got some pretty good totals here across the area. We'll look at those. And some good news here. We're going to dry out a little bit Thursday and Friday, and we're going to warm up Friday before another weak system starts to roll in this weekend. And then the potential for stronger systems exists as we go on in through the early to mid portion of next week. We'll look at that in some detail. This is looking at the mid-level water vapor loop, and you can see this next round of energy out here that'll eventually be pushing its way into the region as we go through this weekend. More on that here in a moment. Here we're looking at SeaTac, 62 degrees yesterday, 3,800ths of an inch of rain. We're going to add to those totals again as we look at this time tomorrow. So nice precipitation maker out there. And this is the CoCoRaHS. You can kind of see the big totals there along some of the coastal regions. Ongoing there across western Oregon, the Seattle Metro not doing too bad as well. A little bit drier across some of the San Juans and up towards southwest BC and Bellingham where they really need the precipitation. But, we'll take what we can get right now as this low pressure is right over the top of the Olympic Mountains. You can also see the rain shadowing effects as you go east of the Cascades, Wenatchee, Yakima, Richland, Tri-Cities down there, Moses Lake, Ritzville, only picking up a few hundredths of an inch. Better totals a little bit further east. You go over Spokane, some of the Blue Mountains, and higher terrain across Idaho and Montana as the storm system slides off to the east. Taking a look across western Oregon, again, this is still ongoing, so we're going to add to these totals here, but some pretty good precipitation, especially across some of the coastal areas and the coastal ranges. And again, the rain shadowing effect as you go on in through eastern Oregon. If you want a nice, affordable home weather station to record all this crazy weather we get here across Pacific Northwest, there is no batteries, easy to install, all solar powered, ultrasonic anemometer. It does UV index, solar radiation sensor. This is an awesome weather station for its price and a nice smartphone app. Click on that link down below to save 10% off. Take a look here at the NAM3KM. You can see this is what the Doppler radar may look like as we go through the day today. We end this precipitation from northwest to southeast, continues on in through this afternoon for a lot of places across western Oregon, the Cascades, before it finally wraps up and pushes off to our south and east. Then we warm up a bit here as we go through Thursday and Friday looking kind of nice here across the region before this next system as we go through Friday night starts to approach from the southwest here. More on that here in a moment. This is looking at the surface-based Cape today. We do destabilize a little bit across some of western Oregon, southwest Washington as we go through the day today, so that you can't rule out another lightning strike or two, but nothing too crazy showing up here as of now. And then the instability moves on with that system as we go through the nighttime tonight. So looking at total swell height, this is the European yesterday afternoon's run here. Probably not bad wave watching as I'm speaking right now along some of the Washington, Oregon coastline here. As you can see, the wave action increase and then finally decrease as that system moves off, get a little bit of a break, and then we have additional systems that'll be rolling into the Pacific Northwest as we go through the early portion of next week here. So we'll kind of watch this and monitor this with depending on what kind of system we have moving towards us as we go through early to mid next week. This is the European model, last night's run. There's Washington, Oregon, the Hawaiian Islands to the bottom left here. It's the Pacific Ocean. You probably remember that system there on the mid-level water vapor loop that I just showed you out across the Pacific. But here goes our system currently. You can see it winding its way down, pushing off to the east. Then the next weak system rolls in here as we go through Friday night. And then the stronger systems potentially start to arrive here as we go through the early portion of next week. And the European's been showing an interesting atmospheric river-looking solution, a fairly robust low trying to move in Vancouver Island there. We'll watch out over the next few days for any kind of wind impacts we may get from that low pressure system there also. And this is where the European ends at hour 144. This would be next Monday night, October 16th. This is again the GFS, 18,000 feet. Here goes our system sliding through. Then another couple nice days, maybe Thursday and Friday, before the next weak frontal system makes its way towards the Pacific Northwest. And the Gulf of Alaska troughing continues on into the early portion of next week. As you can see, we also show some ridging showing up here a little bit on the GFS as well. So, there's some pretty good model disagreement showing up here through the early portion of next week. So we don't want to get caught up in any one solution between the European or the GFS just yet. Now, taking a look at 24-hour precipitation running total, there goes our system moving off to the south and east. Weak frontal system Friday night into Saturday. And then as we go through Sunday night into Monday, the European wants to bring a wet system all the way from the Bay Area all the way up into central BC here. And that's where this last night's European model run ends. The GFS, pretty similar in the short term here. We dry out Thursday and Friday. Next system arrives Friday night, Saturday morning. Not a big precipitation maker by any means. And then the potential for a stronger system exists there, but as you can see, the GFS is wetter further north, but not as wet across some central California, western Oregon, and western Washington as we go through the early portion of next week upcoming here. And then we've got another decaying system kind of moving across the area. But we're looking off in Fantasyland, getting a little bit ahead of ourselves there. This is the National Blended Model. So you can see the temperatures for today across the region, some 60s across western Washington, Oregon, eastern Washington, lower elevations. And we bounce back a little bit as we go through tomorrow. And then look at Friday, some 70s, some low 70s showing up for western Washington, southwest BC, western Oregon here. So we might get a nice day out of that before some high clouds start arriving during the day Friday. Cool us off a bit here as we get that weak frontal system rolling through Saturday, Sunday, and then if that European is right and we start to bring some of the stronger storms back into the region here, by the time we go to the early portion of next week, we'll cool back down a little bit again here. But as you can see, no big heat wave looming in our future and no huge cool down coming up. Pretty typical for this time of year. This is looking at the European model. So I cherry picked this one on the Northwest Washington coastline. It actually is category atmospheric river of AR4. And you can see there is still some pretty good disagreement between the ensemble runs here. Some of them are showing the atmospheric river being much weaker, but look across the southwest Oregon coastline actually has AR5. And you can see pretty good model agreement there between the ensemble runs on the European, but that can still change. And this is going to be largely beneficial at this time of year. We really need the precipitation here along the west coast. This is again the GFS, much weaker with the atmospheric river signal. Maybe some AR3 there along the Oregon coastline for the most part. And you can actually change this up a little bit here. Let's go ahead and do 47. Oh, that is actually the European. Let's go back to the GFS there. And you can see the atmospheric river generally just much weaker here on the GFS run. So we'll see which model caves to which as we go through the early portion of this week coming up. Tillamook Airport here. You can see as we go through October 16th, the European wants to bring that low pressure up towards Vancouver Island. So we'll watch this one closely. There are some bigger solutions in here, but for the most part, probably gusts somewhere around 40 miles per hour. It depends. We'll watch that storm track as we get a little bit closer. This is Hoakley. I'm kind of showing the potential for some bigger wind gusts in there also. Even for SeaTac, if the track of that low pressure goes just right, you could bring some bigger gusts inland, but purely fantasy at this point. Now, here we go, precipitation, Hoakley and Washington, near the coastline out there. And this is wrapping up today, this precipitation you see here. Then Thursday and Friday, we dry off a bit before we start to bring a weak system in. And then potentially that atmospheric river as we go through the early portion of next week. You can see the ensembles kind of all over the place by the time you get in towards Monday night. This is Tillamook wrapping up that precipitation as we go through the day today. Nice precipitation maker. Get a bit of a break here before additional systems start to arrive. And then as you look through Monday and Monday night, you see the bigger totals start to arrive again. And here I showed this yesterday, atmospheric river vertical cross section. You have to imagine you're standing on some kind of a barge out over the Pacific Ocean and you're looking at the cross section back towards the Cascades of Washington and Oregon. And you can see that this is only about 10,000 feet deep here. You know, this is kind of a low level atmospheric river feature here that slams into terrain features. And on the back side of that, you get some pretty dramatic rain shadow effects here. So kind of an interesting look at just exactly what an atmospheric river is. This is 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook. Still kind of the attention to systems potentially moving through the area as we go through next week here. Above average signal for the Pacific Northwest. 6 to 10 day with that southwest flow. We're bound to be above average here all the way through October 20th. And we'll continue to watch that as we go. This is kind of the signaling of the end, really, of the fire season here across Pacific Northwest. We're getting some nice precipitation makers in here, and hopefully that continues on in through next week. So we should not be dealing with any new additional fire starts here over the next week or so, and probably for the rest of the season. It'd be highly unusual to get new fire starts at this time of year. So anyway, yeah, we'll watch these systems coming up here. It's going to be interesting to see just which model starts to trend towards the other between the European and the GFS as we go through the early portion of next week, because there's some interesting solutions with some of the European bringing a low pressure system up towards Vancouver Island, which of course can bring windy conditions across the Pacific Northwest. And for anybody wanting to know about the California videos, they are going to be on the California Weather Watch page from here on out. So you should see a box off to the bottom left here down below. So I hope you guys are liking these videos. I will talk to you guys tomorrow, and I'll see you then.